Hi everyone, good afternoon, and I welcome you all on behalf of Vartana for this webinar series. I'm extremely happy to meet you all again on this wonderful platform once again. I wish you all a happy new year. Let's hope this new year bring a lot of wellness and goodness to each one of us. On this happy note, I like to share two updates from our end. So one is that Vartana will be issuing participation certificate for all the participants who are attending this webinar. So if you want to know more about how to get this participation certificate, what are the procedure, I will talk about the entire details by the end of this webinar. Second important update is that soon we'll be launching a huge digital platform through WhatsApp. This platform will have all the school leaders, teachers, principal across various part of country from different schools. So this platform will be completely a cross-learning platform which will engage you to bring a lot of insights into the group and which will be also productive to each one of us. So I would request each and every participant to stay through the webinar, and I'll talk about these two updates in detail, like how to get the participation certificate and how to enroll in this huge learning platform by the end of this webinar. So let's quickly start today's webinar. So we will be focusing on effective strategies for getting students interested in math for today's webinar. Let's look at the agenda for today. So we'll start the session with introduction, and then we'll discuss about the session objectives. Then we'll also look at what is numeracy and its importance. Then what are the strategy can be followed? What about framework and how to design a lesson plan? Then we'll also look at what are the resources we are available in the online. Then we'll close the session with the feedback. So let's quickly start the introduction part. So what I'll be doing right now is that I'll launch a poll to understand the participant profile. Please select the suitable option. So I've just launched a poll. So if you are a school leader or principal, teacher or others, please select the suitable option. Okay, I'm going to publish the result. As you can see, there are a lot of teachers and school leaders in this webinar today. So I would request each and every participant to engage and share your learning or doubt or insights with us, so that it will be very, very productive to all the participants who are attending the webinar today. So let's get back to our session. So today's objective we have is that very simple, and we have four objectives. First, to understand what is the importance of numeracy skill and what are the important area we should focus with respect to numeracy skill, and what are the various strategies you can implement with respect to maths, with respect to different grades, and how to create an effective framework and lesson plan using these strategy. Finally, we look at the tools and resources which are available to teach math. So let's start with an understanding of what this numeracy skill is about, right? So this numeracy skill is basically to understand and analyze the numerical information or mathematical information to make right decision. This will also help the student or anyone to get problem solving skill or critical and logical thinking skills or even decision making skills. So this is about numeracy. Now we'll look at why this is very, very important. So, and as an adult, we know that we are using mathematical skill at various places, right? So this importance should be shared with the students also. The very first reason is that it is a language of science. We know we are digitally evolving every day. So this digital concept is completely based on math. So the students should be very well enhanced in numeracy skills so that they are future ready. Second thing is that it helps to plan your finances both personally or for your organization, and will also help you to get better job opportunity because you have such a strong skill which is a great demand in market. Finally, it helps you in time management also. There are multiple uses for it, but I have just shown you some important thing which the student should be aware of it. We'll also look at what are some of the important sub skill within numeracy skill the student should have, right? So here I like to hear from the participant because we have so many teachers and school leaders present here. So what do you think, what are the important sub skill you think a student should have with respect to numeracy? Like it can be topic wise or it can be concept wise. What are some of the things skills you think is important for a student or for an adult? to function well in the future or day-to-day basis? Put it in the Q&A boxes, or you can even raise your hand. Like it can be topic, or it can be like particular concept, something like that. Yes, calculations, right? They should know how to do basic calculation, to even go to any shop, to do like get certain, to understand what discount is meant by, to understand what is the remaining amount I should get. Exactly. And somebody has told, Uzma ma'am has told that we should have arithmetic operation. Exactly. Like quantity wise, measurement wise, because our day-to-day life functions on that. Anybody else? I could see two hands are raised up. So I'm just gonna like allow you to talk. So whenever you're ready, Mohan sir and Shiny ma'am, please go ahead and share your points. Calculation, operation, counting, measuring. Exactly. Measuring is very, very important. What is numerical logic behind each and thing? Pattern. Pattern is important in this digital world, right? To understand what this data is talking about. Mathematical operation. Wonderful. Okay. So if you have some more points, please share. Meanwhile, I'll also share my input. So list of some of the main skill which we use, which we consider, is that one is number. Many of you told that, right? Number and the relationship. And then they should be able to understand visual data and interpret, because a lot of graphs and data is like revolving around visual, right? And then logical thinking, already numerical logical thinking, somebody has posted in the chat box. And then they should know how to schedule, estimate, do budgeting, which will be helpful in the future, because for market, you need to know all these skills. Finally, measurement and data analysis also. So we have some more inputs. Yes, data analysis. Somebody has already talked about data analysis and sorting. So, Hari sir, I mean, how can develop interest in math for weak students? So that's the aim of this entire webinar. So I'll cover all these points. So you can still ask a question by the end of the webinar if I didn't cover. So moving on to the next thing. So now we have understood what is numeracy skill and why it is important. Let's also look at what NEP is saying. So NEP is the new education policy we are having. So it says that around 5 crore of students who are in the elementary level have not achieved the basic foundational literacy and numeracy skill. So all the skill which you have talked about in the chat box is basically the foundational skill anyone should have. So NEP highlights that 5 crore students are not having that, and it is important to achieve it, because a survey conducted by National Achievement Survey says that if we don't address this FLN immediately, we will lose around 10 crores of students to the illiteracy. That's why in NEP we have a separate mission for FLN. So, and today's session is also something about to understand why numeracy is important and how to make sure the students are achieving the same. So let's try to understand more on this with the help of few data. So let's look at the one important data is that from pre-COVID, right, where continuous learning was happening. The teachers were engaging with students on regular basis. There was continuous assessment was happening. At that time, if you look at the data, so according to CSF, Central Square Foundation 2020 report says that in class 3, we have only 28% who can do subtraction, the basic subtraction. And in class 5, we have only 27 who can do basic division. In class 8, we have only 44% who can do 3-digit by 1-digit division. So if you look at this data, around 60 to 70% of students are unable to do basic arithmetic operation, even when there was a continuous learning was happening inside the classroom. Let's look at the data post-COVID. So what happened during COVID time? So schools were shut down, everything has converted into online learning. Many students were unable to attend because they don't have that access to digital tools. And there was no continuous assessment was happening. So in this case, what has happened is that according to foundational learning study, which was conducted in 2022, it says that 37% of class 3 have shown only limited knowledge or skills with respect to foundational numeracy. Only very, very limited knowledge. Whereas 11% in class 3 are lacking the most basic knowledge with respect to numeracy skill, like number identification, number name, number recognition. Even a class 3 child is unable to do it. Another alarming data is that from UNESCO, it says that 12 percentage, only 12 percentage of the students from age 10 to 16 are good at maths or are proficient in basic mathematics. Here also, if we can look at the keyword basic mathematics, which means around 90 percentage of the students are below that. So it's a huge number, or it's a huge amount of students who are lacking the basic skills. So that is why it's very important to address this issue. So let me take a pause here, and I want to understand from each one of you, why do you think the students are performing less or poor in maths according to you? You must have encountered like different set of students, right? But according to your experience, why do you think students are performing poor in mathematics? Like, what are the reasons? I'll show reasons from my end also, but I like to know, like, what are the reasons according to a teacher, or according to a principal, or according to a school leader? This is the important reason. That's why my children or my students are not learning mathematics efficiently, due to numeracy problem. Exactly. Okay, so they're already having some issue with numeracy, so they're not performing well. Lack of interest. Wonderful. That's the main issue, right? They don't have any interest in maths. So online teaching and lack of practice. So true. Maths needs a lot of practice. So lack of technology to understand various tools and resources with respect to maths. Yes, many of you talked about lack of interest because maths is not taught schools in practical ways. So true for telling this answer, Hilal sir. Like, we don't tell the practical usage of maths. Fear of subject, lack of practice, lack of concentration. Exactly. Phobia related to maths. There is a lot of fear related to maths. Wonderful. They develop natural apprehension towards maths, and they are not able to connect to day-to-day life. Teaching is done without concrete things. I think everyone have a lot of experience in like understanding the real issue. Thank you for sharing your points. Please keep on sharing it. I'll also share my points, like lack of teaching with hands-on activity. Exactly, Anupriya ma'am. Yes, the today's education is based on memory basis. Wonderful. Stereotypes are there. So I'll also show you what is the real issue. Like somebody pointed out, students are showing less interest in math. What is the reason for that, right? One is that, as already mentioned, they have concentration and attention difficulty because maths has lot of steps, right? Lot of steps, formula, everything is there. And as somebody mentioned, these are the concepts are learned or memorized without any proper understanding of the concept. And we all know that maths is based on previous knowledge, right? Like class 4 ka knowledge will be useful in class 5, class 5 ka knowledge will be useful in class 6. So if they are not learning efficiently or not understanding the basic concept of class 3, they will definitely lack, or they'll definitely perform poor in higher grades, right? And as it is said that math is completely a different subject when you compare with language, science, or social, because here it's 50 percentage of the concepts and 45 percentage of procedures. So you should, I mean, the teacher should use different teaching methodology when it comes to maths. And we should also like keep an important note that our textbook basically focuses on the numerical work. There will be a lot of exercise behind each and every chapter, right? And the curriculum is overloaded. Teacher has to finish it, right? So the teacher doesn't have enough time for doing efficient learning or the concrete way of learning. And as many of you mentioned, uh, there is no real life connection is given to the concept which we are learning. So that's why the students are not able to relate it. So they are like in the mindset that I'm not going to use it in the future. I'm just going to learn it for grade purpose ke liye or mark purpose ke liye, or even I'm just learning to pass this particular grade. So that's the approach they have, and that's why they have less interest towards maths. And one other important thing is that we always relate maths to intelligence. Whoever is doing very well in maths, we'll always think they are intelligent. Whoever do poor performance, we always consider them as like below average or average, like that, right? So this puts a lot of pressure. in child, and it lowers their self-esteem and motivation, and that's why they either hate the subject or they get that fear of maths. Finally, parents pass that anxiety to children. So parents, from their past experience while doing schools, they must have felt maths as a difficult subject. So they pass that anxiety to children, saying that it's a very difficult subject, you have to score very well, it's going to be like tough subject, right? So student automatically develop that fear, and that fear will not able to like concentrate inside the class. So these are the some of the like real issue behind their poor performance, right? So let's try to understand how, as a teacher, we can use different strategy to bring that interest in the students or curiosity among the students to learn maths. So here we are proposing 6 different strategies. So there are multiple strategy, but here, due to time limit, we are talking about 6 important strategy. One is CPM method, another one is inductive method, third one is deductive method, fourth is analytical method, fifth one will be synthetic, and final one will be guided discovery approach. So we'll look at all of these things one by one to understand what is this each strategy is meant by, and how to implement, which grade to implement, which topic to implement. So let's start with concrete pictorial abstract. I'm pretty sure that many of you might come across this particular concept. That's why we're starting with this. So concrete CPA method basically means you are teaching the child in a concrete way first, then moving on to the pictorial way, and then abstract way. So basically it starts from like concrete material, like some of you mentioned, right? Concrete material, moving on to the pictorial representation, and then to symbols. So how to like implement this? What are the steps you have to follow to implement this particular stage? Is that particular strategy is that first you should do doing stage, then comes seeing stage, and then comes symbolic stage. So I'll show the example to understand each and every step in the next slide. But let's try to understand which grade it will be useful. Since it involves like a lot of practical work and pictorial representation, it will be very useful in pre-primary, primary, and grade still 8 standard. That's when the basic concepts are learned. So it's very important to lay the foundation very well. Here I just wanted to ask you, since I've talked a little bit about CPA, I wanted to understand from you that what are the topics you think will be suitable for CPA method, right? So I'm going to start a poll. So here you can see multiple options. So as I mentioned earlier, here you will be asking the children to do, and then you will do like pictorial representation, and then you'll show them the symbols. So according to you, which topic you think CPA would be helpful? So we have around like 13 people have voted. I'll wait for 1 more minute to understand from each one of you which topic would be useful. It's a multiple option. You can select a different option you think whichever is right. Okay, I'm going to publish the result. So as you can see, many of you mentioned that for fractions, arithmetic operation, and place value, CPA method will be useful. So I'll just gonna go back to the list. If you look at here, again, as many of you mentioned, it will be useful to teach number, place value concept, arithmetic operation concept, fraction, measurement, because these involve a lot of concepts or pictorial representation to make them understand. Then slowly you can move to the symbolic stage, which is abstract stage. Now let's look at an example to understand how to implement this strategy in your class. So here I've taken addition concept. The objective here is that I'm going to like the students will be able to solve 2-digit addition without carry forward. Let's take an example of 25 plus 33. Since it's a CPA method, like doing method, I've taken certain resources, like either it can be straws or sticks to do this activity. So first step, as I mentioned earlier, it's a doing stage, right? So before doing an activity with respect to 2-digit addition, you should make sure that every child in your classroom is familiar in making 2-digit number using the resources. Like they should, if it is 25, there should be 2 bundles of 10 and 5 separate sticks. That makes 25, right? So they should be very thorough in that. Then only you can move to the addition concept. So what you will do is that you will give the straws or sticks to them, and you will ask them to make number 25, 33 using these resources. So they have to bundle it in as tens and ones. Once they have bundled it, ask them to count what is the total number of tens they are having, the bundle one they are having, right? They'll have 2 bundles in one set and 3 bundles in the second set, and ask them to like add how many separate individual sticks are there. So once they have added, ask them to write down the number, right? So then ask them what is the final answer. So here you're teaching them, like from place value, the next step is to do 2-digit addition. So here you're teaching them with certain concrete material that the way to add 2-digit number without carry forward. Once they are thorough in doing that, then you will move to seeing stage. This, what you will do, instead of taking all the sticks and bundles, you will represent it with a picture. Either in board, you will draw some kind of picture which represent 25 and 33, either blocks or flowers or anything, whichever it's applicable to you. And then you'll do the same step. You'll ask them how many bundles of tens are there, how many separate individual blocks are there, and they will like try to solve, and they'll tell the answer. Once they're thorough in the pictorial representation stage, you will go to symbolic stage. Here you will replace all the pictures and pictures with numbers and symbols. You will don't have any pictures anymore or materials. It will be plainly 25 plus 33. This time they have to use the same knowledge which they have used in doing stage and seeing stage and try to solve the addition. By this way, you are making sure they're understanding the concept clearly without any memorization. Why this is that? It's very important to like have it in this way, because they'll not have any confusion. Should I add 5 before or 3 before, or is this addition symbol or division symbol, something like that. So this is the very first strategy which we are seeing. Second strategy is that inductive method. So this method will be very useful to arrive at a formula. Many of the time we have seen that children are struggling to memorize the formula, right? And they don't know where to apply which formula, which cases I should apply this formula. So you can use this inductive method to teach that. So what we basically do is that we'll take different cases, we'll try to understand what is the similarity of different cases and try to get a formula out of that. So that's the idea of inductive method. And we have 4 steps. So one is that you will present example, then you will ask them to like observe and reflect, then you will come to general conclusion, then you will verify with another step. So this entire steps we'll see in detail with respect to an example. So which grade this will be useful? So this will be useful in primary and upper grades till 10. That's when they have a lot of formulas and like trying to understand the basic concept. So the topic which will be useful is that arithmetic operation, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, which has like different formulas for different situation or cases. Let's look at an example to understand this inductive method. So I have taken geometry topic, right? So the objective here is that to find the sum of all the angles in a triangle, right? So what you will do is that very first thing is that you have to present the example. So you will ask children to draw 4 to 5 different triangles of different shape. It can be right angle, obtuse angle, acute angle, or equilateral triangle. It can be anything. So 4 to 5 triangle, let them draw and ask them to measure the sides, the angles of each triangle, right? Once they are measured using the protractor, ask them to find the sum of all these angles of a triangle. Say, for example, they have one right angle triangle. They have found out the angles. Ask them to add all the 3 angles. Let them write the summation at the bottom of that angle. Let them do the same for the second triangle, third triangle, fourth, and fifth. Once they have done that, in the generalization step, the third step, ask them to look at the data and understand what they can infer from that, right? What is the conclusion they can make from that? So all sum will be 180 degree. So we can conclude that summation of all angles in a triangle is 180 degree. Once they have made conclusion, make sure they are testing it once again with a different example. Now this time you give an example on the board with the different angles. Let them try to apply the same knowledge and see whether this law, this formula holds true, right? So they'll try to solve, verify and validate the formula. So if you are doing in this way, at any point, they will be able to understand why the sum of all angles is a triangle without memorizing it. So they'll be able to relate to the next concept which follows this particular theory or rule or formula. So this is the second method. Third method is deductive method. So deductive method is quite opposite to inductive method. So not all time will be able to present different examples to them to arrive at a formula, right? Sometimes we have to give them certain formula and they have to test it in different case to get confident in that formula. So that's all the deductive method is it's about, right? So you will start from known one. You will start from a general rule or a formula, or say, for example, a known fact. Then you will come to a result or solution. What are the steps you have to follow? First, you have to present the formula. Then you have to apply the formula. Then you have to infer from that and verify the formula. So you can use it this particular method for higher grades, because higher grades has a lot of complex formulas and topics. So you can go by this method to minimize the time. Examples or topics for this method would be like measurement, mensuration, trigonometry, differentiation, integration. All these complex topic you can apply this particular method. Now let's look at an example, right? So I've taken measurement topic. Here the objective is to find the area of an equilateral triangle which has a side of 3 centimeter, right? So the first step is that present the formula. So here you will give them the formula. To find the area of a triangle, this is the formula I mentioned here in the picture. So you'll give that formula, right? So let them look at the formula, try to understand what is capital A, what is small a, all of those things. Then on the board, you will apply that formula and show them, right? So the side of a triangle is 3 centimeter. Instead of small a, I'm going to put 3 and square it, and you will be finding the area of a triangle using that formula. Now, once you have done that, once you have explained them very, very clearly, inference, then what you will do, you will give different problems of similar cases, like same equilateral triangle of different sides, you will be giving to the children to solve using the formula. Let them do like 4 or 5 times and then let them infer that, okay, this particular formula will be true for this case. We should have equilateral triangle and the side should be given. In that case only, I should use this particular formula, right? Once they have done that inference, again, what you have to do, they have to validate on their own. So now give one more problem similar to that. Let them use it, let them validate, and let them understand, okay, this is the formula I have to remember for equilateral triangle when the side is given. Yeah. So this is deductive method. I am pretty sure that many of you might have used in your classroom. So I'm just going to take a pause to understand. As so far, I've discussed 3 strategies, but I also wanted to understand from your end, what are some of the other topics you have faced difficulty in teaching children, right? It can be any topic. It can be a complex topic or a fact-based topic, or say, for example, completely a different tangent topic, right? What some of the topics you have faced difficulty in teaching children in the classroom? It can be higher classes or lower classes or primary classes. What are some of the topics? Like I have mentioned about differentiation, integration, trigonometry. So what are some? So some of you mentioned volume of solid shapes, right? So there is a difficulty in teaching volume of solid shape. Maybe the reason might be they are not understanding like what is the solid shape or what this particular solid shape looks like and getting confused in formula. Okay. Multiplication for first grade. Yeah, because they just in the stage of like number recognition, immediately jumping to multiplication, 3D geometry, construction, division of polynomials, absolutely axioms and theorem, because that's completely like a memory, right? Like they have to like remember a lot of theorems and how to prove. Okay, trigonometry. Any other topic? Application of inequalities in triangles. Yes. In age questions. Yes, absolutely. The word problem, I would simply put it as a word problem because they are not able to relate to it very strongly what is being asked. Wonderful. So you have mentioned a lot of topics. So in this, we have already discussed 3 strategy, which covers some of the topics. In the coming strategy also, we'll cover strategies which will help you to address these topics. So I would recommend that the example which I mentioned in the slide, it's kind of very limited. So I would say that you can like go back and reflect at the PPT or whichever is shared with you. So you can think which particular strategy will be useful for teaching certain topics. Application of trigonometry and geometrical theorem, absolutely, because these are like a lot of numbers and derivations formula. That's why they are getting a little bit stuck over there. Now let's move on to our fourth method, which is analytical method. Like many of you mentioned theorems and all, right? So I would say that for theorem, all of those things, this particular method will be helpful. So what this method is that you will start from unknown and then you will try to find the known one, right? You will break different parts and try to find out the end conclusion. Like you will start from complex to simple or even abstract to concrete. So what are the steps you have to follow is that first you have to understand the problem, break it into parts, connect to the next possibility, and finally do a verification. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this will be very, very useful for higher grades because they have a lot of complex topics like derivation, theorem, all of those things. Examples like theorem, algebra, geometry. So whoever has said that they're facing difficulty in these kind of topics, try it and see it in your class and let us know like how it is actually working, so that we'll also get to know how much can be done with respect to analytical method. Let's look at an example. Here I've taken algebra, right? Basically, what they have to do is that the objective is that they have to prove A by B is equal to C by D. That is LHS. If LHS is true, they have to prove the right hand side equation, right? If A by B is equal to C by D, they have to prove this particular equation is also true. So steps to follow. First, you have to understand the problem. Since you are using analytical method, you have to start from unknown. The unknown is your right hand side, right? So this particular equation is the unknown here. So you will start from here. You will break it into parts. So what you will do, first you will take the common one out and cancel it. Like 1 by C is the common in both the ends. So you will take it out, you will cancel it. Third step is you will connect to the next possibility, right? You will do cross multiplication. You will take out the common one. You will cancel the common one. I'm not going into in detail of each step, but just that once you solve all these things, you will arrive at a point where it says A by B is equal to C by D, which is true according to the given problem statement. So you have proved, right? You have started from unknown and then you slowly solved it and you have got the known one, which is also true. So the equation has been solved. So the idea here is that you will start from unknown, derive to the known fact. That's how you will be doing the problems with respect to analytical method. So in this way, there will be no need to memorize certain concepts or formula or what steps would come next, because you are starting from unknown and slowly solving the connecting to the next possibility, right? Whereas the fifth method is synthetic method. This is quite opposite to analytical method. Sorry, this is quite opposite to analytical method. So here what you'll do is that you'll start from known facts and then you'll proceed to unknown. That's how generally most of the problems are solved, right? So this method is called synthetic method. So what is the step you will be following is that you'll start from known, then you will do a lot of assumption, then you will sequence it, and then you'll conclude it. So this will be useful for higher grades as well as for slow learners. Why? Because you are starting from known fact. So whatever information is given in the question, you're starting from that point. So this will help the learners to understand why are we starting in that from point. Topics here is that I would simply say theorems, proving left hand side is equal to right hand side, prove this particular equation is true. All these topics can be done through synthetic method also. Let's look at an example. So I've taken the same example to make sure we are understanding the difference between analytical and synthetic, so that you know which approach you should take inside the classroom for a particular topic. Same thing, right? Algebra, you you are given A by B is equal to C by D, you have to prove the right hand side equation. So the steps to follow here is that start from known facts, right? So since it's a synthetic one, the known is the left hand side. A by B is equal to C by D. Second step is assumption. So here you will pick a suitable assumption. Say you will be adding 3B by C on both sides, right? Once you added that, you will connect to the next sequence. You will take LCM, you will do that like taking out the common, and you will try to prove. Then finally you will achieve the right hand side. So you start from unknown, sorry, you start from known, you will arrive unknown. The only difficulty here is that the assumption part is difficult. It's difficult to explain why are we particularly choosing 3B by C, right? And why should we not choose any other thing to prove this particular equation? So though it is very useful to though the steps are very, very simple, it's very easy to arrive the conclusion, the assumption are not explained here. So I would say that whenever you are choosing any strategy, make sure which is applicable for which topic, right? So that's the only thing we are having with respect to synthetic method. So I've seen a chat saying breaking into parts is the best. Yes, absolutely, sir. So absolutely, ma'am. So break into parts is the best way to explain step-by-step procedure. Now, last method is guided discovery approach. So I would say this is one of the very, very interesting approach. Why? Because here the teacher will act as a guide, right? You will be guiding the children. Children will be exploring, investigating, and concluding the problem, right? You will be guiding by asking a lot of questions or saying, putting it in a better way so they can understand. All of these things as a teacher, you will do, right? You will be just a guide. You will not solve it. So the steps to follow here are that one is motivation, another one is structure, differentiate, and finally reinforcement. So for which grade you have to use, you can use it from class 1 to 12, any grades. So the topics I would say is that first use this guided discovery approach for word problems, right? Many of us in our classroom have seen children are basically getting stuck with respect to word problems. One, why are they stuck? Because they are not able to comprehend, they don't know what they have asked and what they have to find out. So all these, that's why they get that fear of word problem I can't solve. So that's the fear they have, right? So use this guided discovery approach for word problem and see how it is helpful inside your classroom. So let's look at an example here. I've taken money example, right? So there is a word problem with respect to money. Raj and Sita likes to play video games, so they decided to buy the latest model video game. So the cost of the video game is like 7,500, and Sita has saved in 1 month around 3,275. How much Raj need to save? So if you give these kind of word problems, they'll be afraid of the big numbers. They don't know where should start, which arithmetic operation they have to do. Is it combination of arithmetic operation? All the confusion will arrive. So let's make it simple using guided discovery approach. First step is motivation. You have to create that curiosity among the student to solve the problem. How will you do that? You will ask various questions or you'll put it as a picture, right? Whichever is applicable. So you can ask who are people who wants to buy the video game, right? What they want to buy. How much is the cost of the video game? How much Sita has saved, right? So in this way, you are helping them to comprehend the whole problem, right? It's not like 3 or 4 sentence. It's just like 3 or 4 or 5 information. Then second step is structure. Important step here because you are putting the entire word problem information in a very, very, very simpler form so that the children knows that, okay, it's just 3 input, not 3 or 4 sentence, right? So here the input are like you are avoiding all the unnecessary information. You're putting only important information. They are planned to buy together. Video game cost is 7,500. Sita already has 3,275 rupees. How much Raj needs? So this is how you put it in a structured way. Third step is differentiate. I would say use it according to the level of your students, right? Like most of the students are not comfortable with big number. So they don't know which operation we should use because the number is quite big, right? They can't do the calculation immediately. So what you have to do is that you have to convert the big number problem into a small number problem. Same concept you will represent in a very small number, right? Say for example, they want to buy a pen. Pen costs 10 rupees. Sita has 6 rupees. How much Raj needs to have or save? In this way, when numbers are put it in a simpler form, they'll be able to relate. Okay, already 10 is there. 6 Sita has, sorry, the total cost is 10. 6 Sita already has how much? So which arithmetic operation I should choose? So that's how you do, right? Once they have solved this simpler format of word problem, now ask them to implement the same strategy for the bigger version of the problem, the videogram problem, right? So ask them like same arithmetic operation you should apply. Let them solve. So let them encourage them to solve and let them come to the conclusion, right? Once they have come to the conclusion or answer, give similar concept wala word problem to them so that they get that confidence. Okay, if something is asked in this way, I should solve it in this way. This is the concept I can infer from the word problem, like that. So they learn better by practice, right? So this I would say you can apply to bigger class like 5th standard or even like 8th standard, something where they can answer your questions or comprehend on their own, right? But for smaller children who are like finding it quite difficult to comprehend certain words, so we have different strategies for primary classes. So before showing what are those strategy, I'll also wanted to know from your end, like for word problems, what are the different strategies you have tried in your classroom? You can even just raise your hand and talk it, or you can put it in the chat box, because word problem will start from class 1 or even 2, and it goes to higher classes. So what are some of the strategies you have used and it worked wonderful for your classroom? If there is any such strategy, please share it with us also. So those who have raised hand, I've allowed you to talk. So if you want to share any points, please, Mohan sir, Pallavi ma'am, Shaini ma'am, please go ahead and share. Any particular strategy has anyone followed, especially for word problem, or what is that thing? How do you teach word problem concept to your kids? One method is guided discovery approach method, which I've showed you just now with an example of money. Okay, I can see one more hand. Jay Lakshmi ma'am, I'm allowing you to talk. So you will see a microphone button. Please unmute that and you can talk. Tupsi sir, I also did the same for you. So whoever has raised hand, I've already unmuted you. Please unmute from your end. Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, I'm handling grade 1 to 4. And for solving the word problems, I'm using one strategy that is called cup strategy.
Okay.
CUBS. 1 minute, ma'am.
Okay.
Papa, can you please read
Yes.
it? Yes. Cup strategy. In that cup strategy, C stands for circle. Circle the
Yes.
keywords. For
Okay.
example, I'm doing a addition problem. If I'm doing, the keywords for addition are add, sum, what is the total. Likewise, the keywords will be the altogether, put together. Likewise, first of all, they have to circle the keywords, ma'am. Then
Okay.
you means underline the question. What question is asked? That one.
Okay.
Then B is box the numbers. What are the numbers given? Okay.
Okay.
Then solve. That
Okay.
means they have to know in step by step they have to know. First they will find which operation they have to do, whether it is addition or subtraction, they will find out. So this will be
Yes.
very helpful for the differential or remedial learners, so that it will be easy for them. Those who are late bloomers in English, they can't
Yes.
read, they can't comprehend the word problems. It
Yes.
will be easier for them. So this is CUB strategy. CUBS.
Ma'am, how, like, do you really think that this worked for your class now? Like, how much it has worked for your class?
Yes, ma'am, really, because grade 1 and 2 particularly, it's very, very helpful. For higher classes, might be the questions are twisted, words are twisted for them. Even for addition, the keywords will be given in addition, but subtraction has to be done. That's for grade 3 and 4. You asked for grade 1 and 2. So, most probably, for according to your age limit, this can be because the question will be simple for them. So
Yes.
this method is very much simplified and may allow them to solve the problems in an easier way.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing an
Yes,
interesting
yes,
strategy with all of us, Jayalakshmi ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else want to share? Like Jayalakshmi ma'am mentioned about cups method. Anybody wants to share?
Hello.
Okay, I've seen. Yes.
Um,
Hello. Hello. Okay. So Naresh Babu sir, I've also unmuted you. So whoever want to add some points, please go ahead and add it. Sir, Naresh Babu sir, Pallavi ma'am, Tufsir sir. Anybody want to add? Okay. So whenever you are like able to unmute from your end, please share your insights or points so that it will be useful for all of us. In the meantime,
Hello.
I'll also share. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We
This is.
can hear you.
I hope you're fine. This is Tufsir, and I belong to
Oh,
Green
yes,
Valley
ma'am.
School. I just want
Yes.
to share my views on this. That how I teach problems, word problems in my class. Mostly, I belong to class 3. So I will tell you what I do. For example, when I read out the word problem, I create a like a real life example in the class. Yeah, I set up the
Okay.
students. I distribute the students in a way the question says. For example, it says that there are 10 students in a class. For example, I'm just making the example right now, and each of them have 5 apples. Okay, so then I will give the 5 apples to every student in their hands. We create an activity on this, and then I say, so how many apples are there altogether? So they
Yes.
count themselves, they go to one friend to another, they count them, and they set the answer. This way, the division problems, the multiplication word problems, they have very simple multiplication word problems, but I create the environment in the class in which they do it themselves. I create the situation, and then they answer it.
Wonderful, wonderful, ma'am. I think you are doing the very important point. One is that you are connecting practically to them. It's not just like some random people in the word problem talking about something and then you are arriving at a solution. I think that's very important, making the real connection and giving them the opportunity to explore in the classroom itself about the word problem. Thank you so much for sharing, Tufsin, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay, so I would, as I mentioned earlier, whenever you are, Naresh Babu sir, can you unmute yourself, sir? Yes, sir. We can hear you. Hello, sir.
Madam, can you hear me, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can.
Madam, while teaching the word problems,
Mm-hmm.
we can relate it to the familiar terms which they know. Before moving to the problem, we
Mm-hmm.
have to just a small event which is
Mm-hmm.
related to the question
Mm-hmm.
at the same time related to their daily life.
Yes.
After mapping the both, we can move
Mm-hmm.
to the question and then explain the question.
Absolutely.
Then
Yes.
we have to identify what is given, what we have to find, and
Mm-hmm.
then the path which leads to the answer.
Yes.
If we
Absolutely.
proceed like this, it will be easy for them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you
Hmm.
so much for sharing this strategy, sir. Like we should start from what they already know and put it in like real life problem, and then we move on to the problem. Like what is it given, what we should find, so that it's simple for the student to understand the word problem. Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. So I'll just move on to the presentation. Whoever wants to add the point, please raise your hand or put it in the chat box. We'll look at it. So like Jayalakshmi ma'am mentioned, this is like Cube's method. I put it on only 2 methods, but there are multiple strategy. Like few of them I've already discussed. Like Jayalakshmi ma'am discussed, Naresh Babu sir have discussed, and Tupsir ma'am has also discussed. So Cube method is basically is that like one you can start with C, like circle the key numbers, like just because the word problem has like 3 or 4 sentences. the child in class 1 to 3 might be like little bit struggling to understand. So you'll ask them to circle the numbers. U stands for underline the question. What is that I have to find out, right? Underline that. B stands for box. Box the action, which arithmetic operation I should be doing or which is asked in the question. Should I add, subtract, multiply, or divide? E stands for evaluate and eliminate. Eliminate all the unnecessary information and evaluate what is the next step I should do. S solves for, like ma'am mentioned, solve the problem and recheck your work. Let's look at an example. So the school bus has like seats 85 students. At first stop, 16 students got off the bus. Second stop, another 18 students got off the bus. How many students were left? So if you're applying Cube's method, first circle all the numbers like 85, 16, 18. Then box the action word. I'm just gonna, there is quite a disturbance. I'm just gonna mute. Yeah. So now box the action word. What is the arithmetic operation you have asked to do? Here the key box action word is left. Like how many students were left? Left basically means subtraction, right? And then underline the question. How many students, which is already here, how many students were left on the bus? So through this, you are simplifying 3 or 4 sentences into like circle, box, and underline so that they can focus on the key information and solve the problem. And it has worked wonderful. You have just heard from Jayalakshmi ma'am. I would say like other teachers who are teaching primary classes, try this method and see how effective this is for your classroom. Second method is keyword method. Like for example, the major problem which the younger children has is comprehension, right? Not every time in word problem, we just ask add or multiply or divide. We use different synonyms for that. So they may not be aware of those synonyms. So what I would say is that teach them the important synonyms for a particular grade, which is repeatedly asked in their word problem. The rigor level changes from class 1 to 5. So just teach them the synonym of that. Say, for example, if they ask sum, total, altogether, plus, in all, this all means that you have to do addition. Similar for subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? Again, let's look with an example. A man plucked 35 mangoes from one tree, 45 mangoes from second tree, 25 mangoes from third tree. Find the total number of mangoes. So generally, if you give this kind of question, the student will be a little bit afraid to solve because they have a lot of numbers. They don't know which operation they should use. Using this keyword, let them like match it. Okay, what is the keyword here given in the question? That is total. Total means which operation I should use. I should use addition. So then the child will be adding all 3 numbers to find the final answer. So these are some of the method. There are a lot of other method also available in online. I would request you to, like, whenever you have time, you can go back and see which will work for your particular grade. Right? Okay. Now, the next thing is that we have discussed 6 different strategies, right? Like what are the steps you have to follow? What are the topics it will be suitable? But you might have this question like, how should I implement this in my classroom? Where should I even start first? What would be the first step, right? For any strategy, you have to implement it effectively means you should have a proper structure and plan in place. So framework basically means a structure. So this is the very first step, right? Let's look at what is a framework. Framework is a list of learning outcomes or standards mentioned for a particular grade in which the content has been built, right? So by the end of that grade or by that end of session, these are the learning outcomes the student should achieve, right? So this structure, this framework has a very, very clear learning objectives or learning outcome for all the classes. But why this is important? Once if you know what is expected out of a child from a particular topic, you will teach them in such a way. You will put a plan in place. You will set objective goals in such a way that it will arrive or the end outcome might be achieved. So it will help you to create efficient lesson plan. Then it will also help you to put right teaching practices at place. Now, how to create a framework or how to create the structure? First, you have to identify the goal, which is learning outcome. And then you should know what is the current level of the child. Then only you can plan steps, like what is the next steps. I have to choose objective. What is the objective I'm trying to achieve while teaching this to my children? Then you will put it into sequence and time frame, right? So this is all about framework. You might be wondering like where to pick the learning outcome. So I would say one of the best method or one of the best way is that NCERT has already mentioned learning outcome class 1 to 8 with pedagogical processes. So we'll share this entire PDF link with you along with the other handouts. You can use this as a reference, or else because many of the publication or many of the state syllabus also have some reference in NCERT. You can try this and see how much it's working for your class, or you can check into the learning outcome mentioned by your state syllabus or the publications. So this is how you pick learning outcome and you choose the right strategy. Let's look with example to understand the framework bit more. So I'm just talking about primary grades, right? So I've just clubbed class 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 as a separate one. Class 1, 2, 3, there is like the topic is patterns in shape, right? So the standard is that they have to identify when compare. The objective will be different for class 1, 2, 3 with different trigger level, right? For class 1, it will be just identifying a particular shape. For class 2, it will be comparing it with the real life. For class 3, it will be like to understand what is 2D and 3D. So these are the different trigger levels. So once you have chosen the objective, the second thing is that you have to know the current level of the child. You'll do some assessment to understand what is the current knowledge the child is having with respect to my objective. Like you can ask them to collect the shapes from the surroundings, or you can give some worksheet, right? So for this particular topic, you can use concrete and pictorial method, which we have already discussed. For class 4 and 5, same shapes concept. Let's take here the standard will be little higher and the objective will be little different for class 4 and 5. Class 4, it will be like identifying 3D object with the real life object, whereas class 5, describing the 3D object with their characteristics. You will do an assessment. You will give a worksheet or some kind of assessment to make sure that what is the level of class 5 and class 4 and 5. Again, here you can move it to the next stage. Like you can teach it through pictorial and abstract method. So this assessment part, I'll just show it with an example. As I mentioned, grade 1, the idea is to identify particular shape. So you'll give 4 objects and ask them to identify what is square among these 4. For grade 2, you'll give a worksheet to make them understand, to make sure that whether they're able to relate the 2D shape with the real life object. For grade 3, you will ask them which is 2D, which is 3D to compare and differentiate. Grade 4, you will ask them to match the 3D shape with the real life object. Grade 5, you will give certain solid shapes and ask them to describe the characteristic. So these are some of the example assessment. You'll have a lot of worksheet related to that. So you can go back and use this to assess the current knowledge of the child. And then you can choose your approach or strategies. Similarly, you can do for secondary grades. So here we have mentioned from class 6 to 10. So we have taken the same topic, measurement, but with different standards and objective. The rigor level will be changing. So basically for 6 and 7, it's just area and perimeter, whereas 8 to 10, it will be volume, right? Let's look at the objective of class 6 and 7. So for class 6, the objective will be to find area and perimeter. That's all of a rectangle. Whereas for class 7, it will be like to find any other dimension when perimeter is given or when area is given. Little bit, right? The missing element, that's the rigor level we have kept here. So once you have conducted the assessment, once you know the current level, you can use inductive method to teach this particular topic. This is from the suggestions, right? For 8 and 9, when they want to find the volume of a particular shape, say for example, 8th standard, for 8th standard, you're asking the question directly. You're giving side and you're asking them to find the volume. For 9, you are giving the other way. You're giving volume and asking them to find the side. So you can use either inductive method or deductive method. So here we have suggested deductive method would work better for this case. For 10th standard, again, the idea is similar. So you have to follow, find the particular side or length of a cylinder using the volume, or if the length is given from a different shape, you have to arrive the volume of a cylinder. So this you can use guided discovery approach. Let's look these cases with an example. As I mentioned earlier, class 6, right? You are going to use inductive method. Inductive method means you're going to apply the particular concept in a different, different cases to make sure the formula or the rule holds true. So the idea is that to find the perimeter. So perimeter, as we know, we can find it by two ways. Either you can do the summation of all the sides, or you can just simply do it with the help of formula. Whereas for class 7, as I mentioned earlier, they have to find any particular dimension when the perimeter is given. So they'll be applying the formula in a reverse way, or they'll be doing a lot of inductive method to arrive this particular solution. Whereas for class 8 and 9, for class 8, let's say the first question is applicable. The question is very, very direct. Find the volume of a cube whose side is 5 centimeter. So here we can use deductive method. You can tell volume is equal to side cube. That's the formula. They will apply and they will come to conclusion. Whereas for class 9, let's say the second it's a problem. Calculate the side length of a cube whose volume is 64. So here you have to find the length when volume is given. Again, you can use deductive method. So you can just go with the reversal of the formula and you can find the side length. For class 10, where we are using guided discovery approach, let's say there is a word problem, right? There is a piece of paper with particular dimension. When you just roll it on or when you just fold it, it becomes a cylinder with 4 centimeter height. So can you find the volume of a cylinder? So what you can do is that since they are already aware of formulas and all, you can ask them which or how to do it. So you can ask what is to be found out, what is the data available, and which what is the formula we have? Do we have any formula? How do you arrive at the formula? You can ask a lot of questions and make themselves solve it. So this is how you can use guided discovery approach for this particular concept, right? So this is framework. So as I mentioned earlier, to implement any strategy, structure is important and plan is important. We have already seen what is structure. Now let's see what is plan, right? How to create an efficient lesson plan. But here I'm pretty sure that everyone must have followed different method to create a lesson plan. Before proposing my method of creating a lesson plan, I'd like to know from you all, according to you, what are the important element a lesson plan should have? If I'm a maths teacher, I'm teaching for quite some years for a particular grade. According to me, this is a must element a lesson plan should have. If so, what is that element? You can put it in the chat box or you can even raise your hand. So anything works for me. What is a must element? Like you will be creating lesson plan for all your topics and all grades. What is an important element a lesson plan should have? Not just one element, it can be multiple elements also. I could see one. For those, ma'am, I'm just going to allow you to talk. So, ma'am, you might be seeing a microphone button. You can unmute yourself and talk. If you have inputs, please put it in the chat box.
Am I audible?
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
First of all, I am not ma'am, I am Sir Firdous from Green Valley Educational Institute. So what I think personally, I think the main that point should be there in the lesson plan. That is the previous knowledge, which should be mentioned there. Once we just start the plan, what we have to teach, before that we should have the previous knowledge of the same topic. That should be mentioned over there. What I feel.
Okay. So sir is saying that there should be a clear idea of what is the previous knowledge the child is having. And there are a lot of other inputs we can see in the chat box. They should be objective, there should be particular strategy, there should be an activity planner, conclusion, concept max, some familiar example with picture relating to all topics to real life. That's very, very important. I do CFU, we do, check for understanding, you do check for understanding. Okay, somebody has said I'm not audible. Bhuvneshwari ma'am, can you hear me now? Previous knowledge of the topic, like sir has mentioned, motivation, learning outcome, teaching aids, sequence of activity, real life application. Wonderful. I think these are very, very valid and important points. Material or TLM used. Yeah, you should know what material you're going to use. What are the vocabulary? Okay. Any other points? Okay. So these are like important elements a lesson plan should have. So you must have come to this particular conclusion after having like a lot of experience inside the classroom. And somebody has said assessment. Absolutely, Javed sir. I'll just move on to, you can put your point. I'll just move on to the next particular slide. So like many of you mentioned, you can have multiple elements in your lesson plan, but there are certain elements which is very, very, very important. So here I'm just talking about one particular lesson plan, which will be useful for maths, or I could say which will be useful for any subject which has lot of concepts to be explained, like maths, right? So the elements here is like many of you mentioned, you should know what is the objective you are trying to achieve. Once you know the objective, you will choose the right approach. You will choose the right strategy, right? And then you will also choose the what is the rigor level of that particular concept should have. An assessment, like sir and many others have mentioned, you should know what is the previous knowledge the child is having with respect to this particular topic. So assessment plays an important part before starting the lesson and even after completing the lesson. So you should have check for understanding before starting as well as while closing the session. Like some of you, one of you has mentioned I do, we do, you do method. I'm going to propose the same also. I do is that teacher modeling. Like first, the teacher will tell what you should do with respect to this particular concept, right? How should you address this concept? They will demonstrate step-by-step procedure to solve the problem, right? That's how they teach the children. Whereas we do is that it's a guided practice. Teacher and the children will solve the problem or concept or sum together, right? So this will encourage the student to like one, they will develop that curiosity, then they'll develop that exploration. Okay, what would be the next step, right? Well, how should I solve this? So this will create a lot of interest among them when they do with the support of a teacher. You do is an independent practice. Once the guided practice is done, once they are like quite aware or quite confident about particular topic, you will give a set of problems for them and they will do it. So you do, they can do it as a practice. After that, you can even conduct an assessment to check how much the learning transfer has been happened, how much the knowledge has been transferred to the children, right? So here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you a sample lesson plan. I'll just run through it. This anyway, we're going to give it as a handout. So I'll just run through it very briefly. So as mentioned, I'll just select the objective, right approach. This is for grade 5 max. The topic is measurement, right? The idea is that to describe 3D shapes, here I'm going to use pictorial and abstract method. And what is the assessment, right? What I'm going to test, the previous knowledge, and what the child should be, what is expected out of them, right? So before starting a lesson, you will bring that hook. You will make that connection from the previous knowledge to the current topic you are teaching, right? Either you can ask questions or do some activity to make that connection. Then comes I do. I do is basically, you should be very, very aware that how we are going to introduce this particular concept or knowledge or skill. Then how do you make sure that the children are understanding, right? So first you will ask a lot of questions and then you will do it step-by-step procedure for them to explain the particular concept or problem. Then comes we do. We do is that what is the activity? These are the questions you should ask yourself. What are the activities I'm going to do in the classroom, which can be done both by me and student with little bit of guidance, right? What kind of guidance I'm going to give? Am I going to ask questions? Am I going to show some pictures or presentations? All of these things you should be aware and you can design the activity in such a way. You do is the independent practice, right? What are the exercise I'm going to give the children? How much the rigor level I should keep? So for example, should I keep the same rigor level what I teach under I do, or I should little bit lower it or higher it? So all these things you can ask and design in you do. Final important thing, you should close your session properly, right? First, what you'll do, you will summarize what you teach, right? So how will students summarize it? How do I know my students have learned it, right? So either you will summarize the steps or you ask them what did they learn, or you can ask them like do some assessment, or you can give some homework. So this is how the lesson plan elements can be designed. So you can use this method to create an efficient lesson plan. I'm going to go back to my other sheet. So also, since we talked about assessment, the check for understanding before starting a lesson and or even completing the lesson, I'll show another example. So this is an assessment tool which Vartan has developed. So this is for grade 2. Here you can see set of questions which we ask. Everything will be MCQ so that we can understand where the misconception is happening a lot. So if you see these questions, we'll share it this as a handout as well. If you see this question, we'll start with the previous knowledge, right? With the less rigor level. Say for example, it's starting with number names. Slowly it goes to recognizing number using place value or all these blocks. Then I'll say this second question is the pictorial method, whereas the second part of the other question is the symbolic abstract method. Then comes pattern. Then comes word problem with pictorial representation. Then comes shape. So this how slowly the rigor level has been increased. Then pattern within the shape, greater or smaller symbol, right? Then it goes to like harmony vertical line. Then comes addition using symbolic method, and then word problems using pictorial method. All of these things are included. So this is a sample assessment which you can even also try before starting a lesson or even completing a particular lesson. You can use this particular handout as a reference to design your own assessment. So this is how the effective lesson plan will be created. Now, since we have talked a lot about strategies, framework, lesson plan, everything, let's try to implement whatever knowledge has been shared with this session through some cases. Right? The first case is that there is a student in class 5 who is unable to do 3-digit subtraction with borrowing concept. So what is the teacher doing? The teacher is conducting a customized assessment for them, for the particular child, to understand what is the real issue. These three are the findings he is able to find. One, the particular student is able to recognize all 3-digit numbers, right? And he can do subtraction of 2-digit and 3-digit number without borrowing. Like for example, 55 minus 22, something like that. Whereas third point, he's struggling to understand the concept of place value, right? That's the issue that the teacher is able to find. Now, among these insights, right? So I'm going to propose 3 different actions. I want you to find out what is the correct sequence of action the teacher should take so that the child is able to do 3-digit subtraction with borrowing concept. So these are the 3. I'm just going to launch a poll. I'll also given the solution in the PPT, I mean different solution in the PPT. So what I want you to do is that look at the solution which I've mentioned in the PPT. First one is increase the rigor level of the problem gradually. B is like through CPA method, teach place value and then connect with the borrowing concept. Whereas C is reteach the concept of 3-digit with borrowing with just 3-step procedure to follow. So this is in a different order. According to you, what is the sequence of action the teacher should take? I'm going to quickly launch this poll. So here ABC means the first is like A, where the teacher will increase the rigor level. B is through CPA method, they'll teach place value. C is they reteach the concept of 3-digit with just 3-step procedure. So what do you think would be the right sequence of action a teacher should take? So far, we have like around 7 people have voted and we have good number of participants. I would request everyone to please try it and see. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just your way of like expressing which would be the right sequence of action. I'll take around 30 seconds for everyone to vote. Okay, I'm going to like publish the result. As you can see, like many of you told, BCA is the right sequence of action, which is you will start with CPA, CPA method of teaching, and then you will move to reteach the concept, like 3-step procedure, and then you will increase the rigor level. Good. So these are the steps the teacher should follow. Let's look at case 2, right? So in class 7, some students are performing below average in algebra. One of the major reason is that they are not able to remember, understand, or apply the formula. So what is the best strategy to overcome this challenge? So the problem here is that they are not able to remember or apply or even like understand the formula. So what is the best strategy a teacher can use? So here again in this poll, we have like 3 different strategies. So whichever you think would work for you, you can pick that. So those 3 strategies, I will also put it in the display. You'll ask a student to write the formula 10 times. You are using inductive method to derive the formula and its purpose, or you'll be focusing on only 3 formula at a time, helping them to memorize. Whatever you think works, please put it that in the chat box. It'll take some time here for everyone to please post your results. We have around 41 people have posted, 41% of the people have posted. Okay, I'm going to publish the result. So most of you said that use the inductive method to derive the formula and purpose. Absolutely. You can try this method so that they remember, they understand the formula rather than that memorizing it, right? Great. Thank you. I'll just go back to my slide. Yes, option 2 is correct. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Now, finally, let's look at what are the different resources available so that you can apply or use these resources in your classroom. Let's start with online contents. So there are like different online content platform. Here I mentioned only few, right? If you have like Khan Academy, ByteLearn, TeacherTube, this all website has like a lot of online videos, max videos on different grades and topics, which you can go refer. Either you can directly project it in your classroom and teach that, or you yourself can go back, understand what are the different pedagogy used and implement in your classroom. I'll just show how it looks. So this is Khan Academy's page. So you can see here starts with kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and there are a lot of topic discussed. I'll just click on one topic to show you how it looks like, right? Many of you might have used in the Corona time. So this is multiplication introduction, right? So you'll have videos here, equal groups, introduction, multiplication, and you also have quizzes and all. So if I click on equal groups, so this is a page I'll be getting. So the video will be played here. Okay. I'm just going to pause the video. You can directly connect to Google Classroom and project it in your classroom, or you can learn from here and then you can implement this particular pedagogy. Going back to the PPT. Next is online tools. So here particularly we have mentioned online tools or online platforms. Student can use themselves to practice in a fun way, in an engaging way, right? They can take it as a quiz or they can take it as a play. IXL is mostly about quiz, whereas Max Playground is a website where the child can learn Max concept in a playway method. Like it's just like penguin jumping by using addition and all. I'll just show how IXL looks like. I hope you can see the page here. So IXL, if you look at it, you'll have from lower kindergarten to class 12. And it is based on skill wise also. So I'm going to press on class 1. So skills, see all 164 skills. So if you can see, there are a lot of skill according to topic wise. So if you click on any one, the page will get open, right? So it starts with learn with an example. Either they can learn the concept and take the quiz, or they can directly jump to quiz. Say here, how many birds are here? So they can click on the right option and submit it. So here they'll get time and the score. So this will help the children to be very engaging and like the max concept, right? Moving on to the PPT. Finally, worksheets. So this will be helpful for teachers who are like quite busy in a lot of things and unable to design their own worksheet. You can have these kinds of website you can go where you can download free printable worksheet, and you can help put it in your classroom or give it as a like handout for the children to practice. So I'll just show one worksheet example. So this is I Practice Math. So you have worksheets here. Worksheets are free. So you have a lot of concept here. I'll click on addition worksheet. You have grade wise also. You can click particular grade, or you can go topic wise. So I'm just going to go by adding by 8. So here what happens is that either the children can take it directly online, or you can print the worksheet and then you can give it as a handout. So this is how the worksheet website will look like. So these are some of the online resources available. So Vartana also has like different program which addresses both like academic way as well as support the school to function normally. So one is Unlock program, where we will be providing this material for class 1 to 8, a book material which is remedial, focuses majorly on maths and English with all supplementary videos. The second program is specially for school leaders, where it is called Smart Fee program. It helps the school to collect fees in an efficient way and also reduce the parents' burden by collecting the fees in a monthly basis without any interest throughout the year. So these are the programs which Vartana is offering. If you want to know more about this program or anything you want to know about the program, please email to hello@vartana.com, and or else you can directly contact our customer care number. I would say just take a screenshot or note down of these things. It will be helpful in the future also.